All right, we're going to read chapter 28. Turtle Never Told. She never told who Sam Westing was. He was alive and had taken a new identity. Turtle never told. She went to the library every Saturday afternoon, she explained, which was partly true. Make your move, Turtle. You don't want to be late for the wedding. So where was she going? Whose library was it? Yeah, Julian R. Eastman's library. And what are they playing? Make your move, Turtle. You don't want to be late. They're playing chess. The ceremony was held in Shinhu's restaurant. Grace Wexler, recovered from her hangover, draped a white cloth over the liquor bottles and set a spray of roses on the bar. Who was getting married? No drinks would be served today. Radiant in her wedding dress of white heirloom lace, the bride walked down the aisle, past the tables of well-wishers on the arm of Jake Wexler. Mr. Hu, the best man, beamed with pride at her light footsteps as he supported the knee-knocking, nervous groom. A fine red line of a scar marked Angela's cheek, but she looked content and lovely as ever in her pale blue bridesmaid's gown. Not Angela getting married. The other bridesmaids wore pink and yellow with matching crutches. Seidel. The guests cried during the wedding and laughed during the reception. Flora Bomback smiled and cried at the same time. You did a good job altering the wedding dress, Baba, Turtle said, which made the dressmaker cry even harder. A toast to the bride and groom, Jake announced, raising his glass of ginger ale. To Crow and Otis Amber. The heirs of Sam Westing clinked glasses with the members of the Good Salvation Soup Kitchen, sobered up for this happy occasion. To Crow and Otis Amber. So Crow and Otis got married. Apartment 4D was bare. For the last time, Judge Ford stared out of the side window to the cliff where the Westing house once stood. She would never solve the Westing puzzle. Perhaps it was just as well. Her debt would be repaid, finally, with interest. The money she received from the sale of her Sunset Towers would pay for the education of another youngster, just as Sam Westing had paid for her education. Who do you think she's going to pay for? Hi, Judge Ford. I came to say goodbye, said Chris, wheeling himself through the door. Oh, hello, Chris. That was nice of you. But why aren't you studying? Where's your tutor? She looked at the binoculars hanging from his neck. You haven't been bird watching again, have you? There will be plenty of time for birds later. First, you must catch up on your studies if you want to get into a good school. Good heavens, she was beginning to sound like Mr. Hu. So she's paying for Chris's education. Will you come see me? Chris asked. It gets sort of lonely with Theo away at college. The judge gave him one of her rare smiles. He was a bright youngster. Really smart, Sandy had said. He had a good future. Sandy had said that too. He needed her influence and the extra money, but she might smother him with her demands. I'll see you when I can, and I'll write to you, Chris, I promise. There's a lot going on in that paragraph. Why do you think she says she's not going to visit him? She might smother him with her demands. So there's this theme of like parents kind of overbearing on their children. Like, why aren't you studying? Why aren't you studying? Why aren't you doing what I want you to do? Why aren't you marrying who I want you to marry? So it's nice when we have that pattern that we see it broken, right? This is a place where it's broken. She's not his mother, but she's not going to smother him at school, right? Since she's educating him, she's going to let him be. Okay. Whose little foot ease, patent pending, was selling well in drugstores and shoe repair shops. So good. Oh, excuse me. Mr. Hu finally has an invention that works, and that is all his. Once we capture the Milwaukee market, I'll take you to China, James Hu promised his business partner, Madam Hu. Okay, said Madam Hu, replying, toting up accounts on her abacus. No hurry. She had many friends in Sunset Towers now, and no more cooking, no more tight dresses lit up her thigh. Her husband had bought her a nice pantsuit to wear when they called on customers, and for her birthday, Doug had given her one of his medals to wear around her neck. All right. So Madame Who is happier. The secretary to the president of Schultz Sausages was back on the job. So that's Seidel. Her ankle mended. Seidel Pulaski had discarded her crutches. She had all the attention she could handle without them. But everyone knew Sam Westing. Oh, after all, she was an heiress now, which means she has inherited money. It wasn't polite to ask how much, but everyone knew Sam Westing had millions. So she's kind of pretending she won all the millions. Of course, she could retire to Florida, but why would she? What would poor Mr. Schultz do without her? And then, one unforgettable Friday, Mr. Schultz himself took her to lunch. Jake Wexler had given up his private practice, both private practices, so his podiatrist office and his bookie office, now that he had been appointed consultant to the governor's inquiry panel for the state lottery, thanks to a recommendation by Judge Ford. Grace was proud of him, and his daughters were doing well. In fact, everything was fine, just fine. Who's on First was a great success. Grace Wexler, the new owner, offered free meals to the sports figures who came to town, and everyone wanted to eat where the athletes were. The restaurant's one windowless wall was covered with autographed photographs of Brewers, Packers, and Bucks. Grace straightened the frame of a smiling champion sign to Grace W. Wexler, who serves number one food in town, Doug Who. So he's a famous athlete who visited too. She certainly was a lucky woman, a respected restaurateur, wife of a state official, and mother to the cleverest kid who ever lived. Turtle was going to be somebody someday. That's another break in a pattern. Grace finally has some respect for Turtle. A narrow scar remained and would always remain on Angela's cheek. It was slightly raised, and she had developed a habit of running her fingers along it as she pored over her books. Enrolled in college once again, she lived at home to save money for the years of medical school ahead. She had returned the engagement ring to Denton Deary. She had not seen him since Crow's wedding. Ed Plum had stopped calling after 10 refusals. So Ed Plum was trying to get her to go out with him. Angela had neither the time nor the desire for social life. What with all the studying, her weekly shopping date with Seidel, and Sundays helping Crow and Otis at the Good Samaritan soup kitchen. Study, 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 said Turtle. Angela saw little of her sister, who was either at school, in Flora Bomback's apartment, or at the library. We know what library it is. The library at Sam Westing's house. Hi, Turtle. How come you're so happy today? The stock market just jumped 25 points. The newlyweds, Crow and Otis Amber, moved into the apartment above the Good Salvation soup kitchen. The storefront mission had been renovated and expanded with the money from the inheritance. Grace Wexler had supervised the decorations. Copper pots hung from the ceiling. The pews were padded with flowered cushions and fitted with hymn book pockets and drop leaf trays. There was meat and soup and fresh bread every day. So a pretty nice soup kitchen. Chapter 29. 5 years pass. The former delivery boy danced into the Who's new lakefront home. Let's give a cheer, the Ambers are here. Otis came to celebrate Doug's victory, wearing the old zippered jacket and the aviator's helmet. He had even let the stubble grow on his chin. The only thing missing was his delivery bike. They had come in the soup kitchen van. Thank you for the generous donation, Mr. Who. God bless you, Crow said. Otis and I distributed the insoles among our people. It helped their suffering greatly. She looked worn, her skin pulled tight against her fragile bones, and she still wore black. Mr. Who, on the other hand, was stouter and less angry. So he's fatter, but not as angry. In fact, he was almost happy. Business was booming. Milwaukee loved Who's little footsies, and so did Chicago and New York and Los Angeles, but he still had not taken his wife to China. Theo Theodorakis, graduate of journalism school, cub reporter, held up the newspaper hot off the press. Okay, so Theo is a writer. Olympic hero comes home. 4 columns were devoted to the history and achievement of the gold medal winner, Doug who had set a new record for the 15-meter run. Theo had not actually written the article on the local hero, but he had sharpened pencils for the reporter who did. "Take a bow, Doug," Mr. Hu said, beaming. Doug leapt up from the table and thrust his index fingers high in the air. "I'm number 1," he shouted. The Olympic gold medal hung from his neck. Confetti from the parade dotted his hair. The Westing heirs cheered. "Hello, Jake. I'm so glad you could come," Sonny, as Madame Hu was now called, said, shaking the hand of the chairman of the State of Gambling Commission. So it's kind of funny, but he was an illegal gambler, and now he's in charge of the lottery, which is legal gambling. "Boom," Jake Wexler replied. All right, everybody's doing well. Madame Hu has learned English. She's happy. And Mr. Hu's his little footies, right? His insoles are doing well. Doug is an Olympic champion. "Hello, Angela." Denton Deer had grown a thick mustache. He was a neurologist. He had never married. "Hello, Denton." Angela's golden hair was tied in a knot at the nape of her neck. She wore no makeup. She was completing her 3rd year of medical school. "It's been a long time." "Remember me?" Seidel Pulaski wore a red and white polka dot dress and leaned on a red and white polka dot crutch. She had sprained her knee dancing the tango at an office party. "How could I ever forget you, Miss Pulaski?" Denton said. "I'd like you to meet my fiancé, Conrad Schultz, president of Schultz Sausages." "How do you do?" All right, so even Seidel's happy. She's engaged to be married to the president of the sausage company. "Judge Ford, I'd like you to meet my friend, Shirley Staver." Chris Theodorakis was in his junior year at college. A medication recently discovered kept his limbs steady and his speech well controlled. He sat in a wheelchair. He sat in a wheelchair as he always would. "Hello, Shirley," the judge said. "Chris has written so much about you." "I'm sorry I'm such a poor correspondent, Chris. I found myself in a tangle of cases this past month." She was now a judge on the United States Circuit Court of Appeals. "Chris and I were both chosen to go on a bird-watching tour in Central America this summer," Shirley said. "Yes," said Judge Ford, "I know." So Judge Ford has been following Chris, but she again leaves him alone. For old time's sake, Grace Wexler catered the party herself and passed among the guests with a tray of appetizers. For old time's sake, Grace Wexler catered the party herself and passed among the guests with a tray of appetizers. Grace owned a chain of 5 restaurants now. Who's on first? Who's on second? Who's on third? Who's on fourth? And who's on fifth? "Who's that attractive young woman talking with Flora Bomback?" Theo asked. "Why," said Grace, "that's my daughter Turtle. She's really grown up, hasn't she? 2nd year of college, and she's only 18. Calls herself T.R. Wexler now." T.R. Wexler was radiant. Earlier that day, she had won her first chess game from the master. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means she beat Sam Westing at chess, Julian R. Eastman, right? All her trips to the library. And she has given herself a new name, TR, Tabitha Ruth. Oh, well, I love this book, and we have one more chapter, and I'm not going to read it right now. Oh, don't even peek. Okay. I can figure out how to stop the video. Hmm. Oh, here it is.